Okay, so I'm already messing up with this vlog every day because technically it's past midnight, so we're into the next day. But my plans got a little thrown off. So instead of me coming straight home directly after work, I would have been able to make it and have this vlog before the 4th. But we're just gonna count this as the 4th, even though it's technically the 5th. I had intentions on maybe talking about like other things, like what I'm reading now. I just finished reading a book by Tolkien, and it was Adventures of the Perilous Realm. So it was just like five random stories that he wrote, and they were like fairy stories. And the next book I was going to start on was this one, which is the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor. But I haven't started that yet because just today my boyfriend gave me a book to read. We both like Doctor Who, and he's has a collection of books, so he just suggested if I want to read one of his books. So I'm reading that now, and then once I finish that, me and him are gonna like review it and talk about it together, and then I'm gonna start on Flannery O'Connor. But just really quickly, Flannery O'Connor. I'm familiar with her from college. Like, I remember I was taking an English honors course, and I used one of her stories to write a paper about, and I think it was A Good Man is Hard to Find. So basically, that was the start of just talking about like idioms. And idioms are just sayings that are, well known in a particular culture or community. Like, a good man is hard to find. And from what I vaguely remember, she's kind of like a gothic writer, or it's like always an unexpected twist or something to her story. But I like to do that where I reread stuff that I may have read for like school or when I was younger, because I don't necessarily remember everything, like details and stuff. And then, like, okay, let's say one book that I read Uncle Tom's Cabin probably when I was like 10 years old, just on my own, just a bookworm, I like reading books. And I remember it impacted me greatly and I cried, but I couldn't remember details of it. So again, it came up in probably high school, like maybe ninth grade, which is what, 13? Yeah, I think it was 13. So a couple years later, and then I had to reread it, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's why I thought it was a good book. So I'm one of those people, like, I have good memory, but I also have shoddy memory sometimes too. So I like to reread stuff. Like right now, my daughter is in 10th grade, and she said that she's reading Little Women. And my son is in ninth grade, and he said that for his independent reading, he's reading The Hobbit. And so when he saw I had the Tolkien book, he was like, oh, I'm reading something. So we had that connection. Um, what was I going to say? Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I'm a reader. I like to read. Um, I'll say mostly right now on my phone, on my Amazon Kindle app, I read like romance novels a lot. So yeah. Otherwise from that, what else have I read recently? Recently I read Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing, which that was the first time I ever read that. I know some people are like, what? You never read that before? But I just never did. I'm familiar with Maya Angelou. I know she's a poet. I know she wrote Phenomenal Woman and, other, because I did read that. But, yeah, I can't say that I ever read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Excellent book. Read it if you can. It's autobiographical for her. So, what else have I read? Oh, I read Octavia Butler. Dean Koontz, really love him. Just watched Thomas movie again. It's like one of my favorite movies. I re-watched. I made my boyfriend watch it too. Yeah, poor Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace. What else? My dad is a Stephen King fan. I've read a few of his books. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like he's a little macabre. So sometimes at the end of his stories, I'm like, did we win? Is the evil dead? You know, just like the It movie. Like, I'm still gonna watch it, but sometimes I need to have a hopeful story, you know, so that's, I like Dean Koontz. Who else did I read? Mm, Agatha Christie. I watched Hercule Poirot on the BBC, the mystery. So I got one of her books for Poirot, and I read that recently. What else? Oh, I was going to reread the autobiography of an ex-colored man by James Weldon Johnson. It was actually a anthology, so it had Frederick Douglass's is it Up from Slavery, and it had another book in there, Booker T. Washington. I don't know. I feel like I'm confusing them, but I was going to read that sometime in the future too. So yeah, I like different genres, plethora of things. I really want to get as a gift probably from my mom because her birthday's in November. The book that Oprah suggested recently, and she was on the CBS Morning News or something with Gayle King and her book club. I don't know. I never really paid attention to that stuff before, but she said this book was very good, and they had the author. He was featured on there. What is his name? Ta-Nehisi Coates. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. The Water Dancer. So I figured like maybe I'll research it on Amazon and maybe order it for my mom for her birthday. I think she would really like that. What else? That's about it. Just books. Books are life. Read, people. Read. I feel like you have so much more access now. Like, you can download apps on your phone. You know, it's probably not good for your eyes, all that screen time. Because I like to alternate. It's easy for me to, like, lay down in bed and read without having, like, all the lights on or whatever. But I like to have my book in my hand, and then when I have a break at work, I'll, like, read, you know. So, yeah. So, you know, just check out books. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to talk more about it if I'm going to try and vlog every day. So, all right. Peace, peeps.